This time on this old crappy snowblower, the Ariens ST824 again.
Well, today we got a nice cold, crisp day. It's about 39 degrees right now. A little cool for this time of year, but I got one of the bearings in for the ST824, and the other one's due later on today. Usually I don't like to take things apart until I got all the parts, but we might as well go at it and get this guy. That's the bearing that I got. Hopefully all I gotta do is take off that nut and put on the new bearing. I hope. Can it be that easy? I hope so. Okay, wheel off. I gotta get these 4 nuts off, and we gotta get this back panel off too, because I think we have to hold the shaft in order to get this nut off here. Okay, on the shaft here we got a 9/16. Put a 3/4 on that and see if we can break that free. Not too bad. Nut. Washer. And you can just see, I don't know if you can see that. I'll take these guys off and hopefully that's right there. There's a bearing. I just gotta hope it doesn't have a ring around it to hold it from going through. Where the new one, there's a new one. Let's see if the new one's right. Yeah, they look about the same. See if I can yoink this thing through with a pair of channel locks. Getting kind of dicey. I couldn't seem to pull it out that way, at least with pliers. I started tapping it with a hammer, and it certainly wants to go in. But it doesn't really want to come out. It's very hard to see in there. You notice I moved this whole shaft over to the right, and you can see the keyway there that goes into this sprocket. I looked at these chains and they seem to be continuous, meaning they don't have master links that I can see. And thinking if I took this apart here, which isn't a big deal, at least I don't think. Boy, it's so messy anyway. Should take it apart. Yeah, let's take this guy out. I got the nuts loose on both of these. Now, this thing seems to slide back and forth to make for a chain adjustment, which is kind of interesting. But if I loosen these guys up, I mean, this thing doesn't want to push through like it's an axle or something. Okay, I gotta ponder this a little bit. Okay, I've pulled that shaft out far enough that I can now get a screwdriver in here, and I'm kind of rocking it back and forth trying to get it out. I'm still wondering if this is flanged, and the new one is not flanged. It might be holding it up, you know what I mean? Sorry about the camera work. Okay, we'll keep dicking with this, see what happens. This is like giving birth. Tug, tug, tug. You can see just how worn out that guy is, huh? So that's all it has to do is push back in the hole, but we're going to clean that all up. I'll show you what the hole looks like. Look at this. There's a shaft right there. You can see the axle in there, I hope. I keep turning this thing to get the light because it's fall and there's not a lot of light. So, sorry if this doesn't pick up that well. We'll clean up this area a little bit too. Okay, we got about 15 years worth of grime off this thing. Could probably still take another 10 years worth of grime off this thing. But I think we're clean enough to put in the new bearing. I want to clean off this stuff too, but I want to wait till that bearing is kind of in its housing. I stuck the shaft back through, and you can kind of see, you can see the keyway there that it needed to line up with, which wasn't a problem, but that kind of pushed a little goo for it. I'm going to clean that junk out too. New bearing slid right on. Went on nice and clean. Now the washer and the nut. Perfect. No slack at all. Moves beautifully. I'll clean this gunk out of here, I think, and tighten these guys back up. And one good lesson I think I learned from this is that the wheel bearing should be the same. You know, take off these plates and wiggle out the bearing, so I don't have to take out the gears and the whole axle and stuff. That'll be great. So one thing I might mention that my pal Road King said is to pull out the bearing, try to find a number on it. And I'll tell you, I don't see a number on it any place. You know, I had the specs for these things, and I ran a search trying to find cheap bearings, you know. And, you know, that one was $6, so the replacement for this. But, a good thing to know in the future. I mean, you pull something out and it's got a number stamped on, you can probably find a cheaper one. So we're going to clean up the gunk here now. Okay, clean that up a bit. Not great, but you can see how these are slotted. Where am I? And, you know, you can pull the chain back a little bit to get a little tighter, and it seems to work for both of them. The angle, you know, they both look really loose, and I was wondering, you know, I gave a thought before to taking out a link in the chain or something like that. I had no idea that this actually adjusted them. So we'll adjust this up a little bit like that, and that looks pretty good. We certainly don't need any more oil on the chain. But, you know, while you're doing all this, you got to keep this rubber clean and that wheel down there clean too, so I'll wipe them off before I'm done. I also want to point out these weird washers. They're on both sides. Don't really know what the point of them is. It goes on like that. Okay, those bolts, those nuts are snug. Got the screwdriver under here, giving it a wedge, and you can see the chains are tight. So we'll tighten it up like that. Shot a little grease into the fittings. Let's inspect this. Oh, looks like I'm gonna have to pull out the axle no matter what, right? I mean, because you get this plate off, so you can't get the bearing on unless the axle is out. So let's pull it apart. Let's take off this wheel. The other wheel off. Ah, man, that is a big ass axle, isn't it? Now look at the play in that thing. You can see there's a roll pin in here. You can see, like right there beyond all the gunk. That's going to have to be pounded out, and if I can do that, a big greasy wheel there. I'm going to take off this side. We'll take a look at it from there. Got that plate off. And there's that terrible bearing. Boy, they are substantial. You can see why they're expensive. You can see how shot it is. I still don't know how I'm going to get this axle out with these flanges here. One flange has to go. Whoops. Oh, and I already had repaired that. Oh, I see. So you gotta get this thing off, and then probably this outer hub will come off. Jesus. But that axle, I mean that bearing, definitely looks like the same size as what we're looking at here. Okay, let's get this contraption off here. And this thing. Oh, jeez. I have no idea how that thing comes off. Okay, we're on to the other side. I'm thinking this is the side that'll come free. This is a differential lock here. It's got the switch to lock the wheel in or lock it out so that it can either spin or be like posi traction. And I've done this on another machine before, but I'm not positive how these things work. But this thing has a little roll pin in this button. And it looks like the only thing at the moment to loosen. And if this whole hub slides off, then you can slide the whole axle out, except for that roll pin that you'll have to pound out. So let's get this roll pin out. Let's see if I got a punch that small for that roll pin. They always look like this. Okay, we'll go with this one. Roll pins work great, but you put a punch in there and the punch gets stuck, because it's the same. If you use one that's too small, it goes on in the inside and mushrooms it out and gets stuck. So it just takes some time. I'm going to try to get some vice grips on this right now, and I also don't want to wreck the roll pin because I don't have one this size. I don't feel like going to get one. So let's get some vice grips on this, see if we can tap it out the rest of the way. Gotcha! Now we'll probably pop this off, and springs and stuff will go shooting across the yard. I can't actually remember what was in here. Okay. It does have a keyed part. You can kind of see that. It looks like it goes where? Who knows? I bet this cap pulls right off though now. Or should. Nothing else is holding it. Get a little lube on that shaft there, clean it up. Don't want to break that. Let's see if we can slide that off. While turning this thing, this pin popped in. Comes out the side, out the back there. Right there. Like I said, I can't really remember how this works, so we're kind of guessing. We don't want to lose that. I'm pulling that through the back side. That's what it looks like. Filthy like everything else. And now this cap will come right off. It wants to come off. And underneath all the gunk, there's another roll pin. You can even see it on this side, huh? This one's already going a lot easier. Tapping a little bit, put a little bit of lube in there. Coming out the other side. All of a sudden, because I had some lube in there, out it comes. I was a little scared to take that one out of there. And now this should come off. Why you no come off? Okay, we're gonna get some screwdrivers behind it and see if we can pry it off. Pry it out a little bit, and tap it back in. Pry it out a little bit, tap it back in. It's gonna come off. We'll tap on the hub. There it is, right in the dirt. Now this can slide off of there. That's what goes right into that big giant gear that's probably about to roll out of the back. And there we have our bearing. This one's no problem replacing. The other one, I'm still going to have to pull the axle all the way through. So this is that thing. Yeah, nice job there. We're about to drop this in the mud too. Well, you guys who have garages and stuff, I got a basement, but I'm working outside. There's not much to that. We'll put it in some gas, clean it up. Okay. This camera is totally grease coated. Okay, we'll take a look from the back here. Jeez, one thing about old axle grease, it is the filthiest crap. Okay, the thing is, that was a roll pin. And it's clearing now, so I'm thinking I can probably pull this axle through. Right now, I don't know what's holding this big gear on. Something is. It looks like it goes right. I mean, it's like it hits this pulley. I'm going to take these guys off. You pull that plate off. This is the back side. Note this thing goes up for some reason. Up like that. And that is the bearing in question. Yeah, a little worn out, I'd say. Don't see any name on this one either, although so much gunk on it. So it would truly be nice if this is all you had to do, is put that new bearing on. Don't know what that is, some kind of spacer, I guess. Don't know what's holding that gear still. I mean, a good pound with a hammer might resolve that. It probably has to sit on something though, to keyway, a roll pin to keep it. Oh, look at how loose it is. I just don't want to lose the order, because there's definitely that bushing in there. You know what's holding it right now? It's just hitting there. If I put down the camera, I can probably pull this axle out. All I did was lift that roll pin up over that hump, and it's splined under this gear. So I'm going to leave it like this until I get the new bearings. Washer there. And then there's this roll pin that's got to come out, because that new bearing's got to come on this way, you know, from this end. But it's not a big deal. You know, I pulled a few of these apart before and they've been so complicated. Maybe it was because the first time I was doing it. But this is looking pretty good. That roll pin's going to be a bitch, so I can tell. Maybe not. For a rusted old piece of crap machine, the roll pins came out pretty easy. I'll leave that there for now. I want to see the order of everything. However, it'll probably take about 3 weeks to clean this thing up. Look at the gunk on that. The New bearings are due like probably about 5 o'clock tonight, just when it gets dark and colder. Gotta clean up the other parts anyway. Good place to stop. I've cleaned things up a bit. Really messy, not that. But I'm still like, I'd like to pull out that axle, but it's like, you know, you think you remember how everything went, but once you pull it apart and it's on the ground and you can't get back to it for a day, you're just like, oh, was this washer here, whatever. I'd probably forget. So I'm going to wait till the the bearings come in. Geez, what if they're wrong? That would suck. Well, we pulled it out. I still don't have the pulleys yet, but I said to clean them up. Let's keep them in order this way. It makes sense. Okay, the battery farted out when I was explaining this. But this gear, I was thinking, you know, it's the same as I was cleaning it off. And I noticed that one edge is definitely beveled this side. And that's so it can go up to that gear where it kind of, I don't know, pulls up or whatever. But it goes towards the chain side. And there's more gunk on this thing. I swear I've taken 1.5 pounds of gunk off of this. And there's so much in here. There's like a 1/16 of an inch in every single one of these. And that enough, once it gets hard, I mean, will push against the other gear and start to wear everything out. So it's a good idea to get these teeth cleaned out. I'll go around and do them all. Cleaning the axle now. So much gunk was right here, and it's amazing, like I broke this scraper earlier and now it, you know, throwing it out, it's a perfect tool to get the junk off the axle. So I'll get this little cleaner, and this washer comes off right there, and then this bearing will slide right over this stuff. No way it would have slid with the gunk that was on there, and that stuff can just stay where it is. Yeah, got the new bearings in. They're the small ones, like that first one I replaced. These aren't right. While I'm waiting for the bearings to come in, this throttle's been giving me issues too. It's kind of upside down here, so you kind of can't tell. But it just ain't moving. You know, you get it moving, and then when the snow flies, it stops moving. And it's funny, but it's been at a pretty good throttle, so I just said, oh, the heck with it. But now I'm going to give the cable itself one last chance, see if I can get more lube in it. So I got to take off these guys. I already started to unscrew them, and that, and then we'll take a look. I also want to pull the bowl off. I put a new carburetor on this last year, and it's one of those cheapos, so it's probably all rusted out in there. Well, this whole thing is a little bit on the loose here. Remember, I didn't have quite the right screws. Oh, I see those washers. I put in plastic washers, and I just put in some metal ones, I guess. Okay, here's the end of the cable. We're going to take that whole cable assembly off. I think this kink, the length of the cable here, right down here, I mean, the water can come right down the cable, drip, 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 and just end up here, and this is where it gets rusty. I'm going to try to drip some oil down it and yank it back and forth with the pliers. Oh yeah. It doesn't move very well. I got my custom knob I made. I usually put Marvel Mystery Oil in this, and I ran out and I put in gear oil. And the gear oil is kind of still in the snout, so I don't really have any light oil to put down in this thing. But kind of the idea is to work this back and forth. I can't even move it. You know, I do have another one of these in my stash, and I always thought it would probably be a good idea just to swap it out. But I also like to fix things if I possibly can, so I'm going to stay at it for a while and see what happens. It's kind of bending every time I try to push it through, so I took it out of here. You can see that just kind of fits in that entryway, and you kind of crimp it down there. And then I remember I put that L shape on there because I took a length out of it. But without this, and obviously that works just fine. We'll see if we can free it up from there. Well, I've been working it back and forth. It's still really stiff. What I did before is I cut off the end. I pulled the whole wire out and I took off some length of this. And I'm going to try that one more time. So because I've bent this, it's been yoinked back and forth so many times and crimped, I'm going to cut like this much off, pull it through, and cut off a piece of this. Cut off that end. Just give it a yoink. And there we are. There's a wire. Hard to kind of see in the dark. It doesn't look totally rusted or anything. It's because I cleaned it before. Okay, we'll wipe this down and then we'll see what we can get through here. There's definitely a part that is rusty and crusty. So I'm going to use some sandpaper on it, see if I can smooth it out. Yeah, I got oil coming all the way through this, but still there's going to be crud in there. We're sanding this thing down. Sorry about the clutter, you probably can't tell what's going on. A little bit of Marble Mystery Oil, and it's pitted, you know, so it's going to collect more crap in it. But we're going to use this kind of as a ramrod to clean out the cable. Let's see what happens here. Get in there. Already it doesn't want to go in. Try from the other end. Well, it was at that point I said, fuck it. It just seemed to get more and more clogged. So I got this other one. Not quite sure it'll bolt up the same, but it's nice and free. So, well, the difference in the two is that this one's got rivets. I'm going to drill out those rivets, and these holes are the same. Yeah, it's just one of those days, nothing's working out. I walked downstairs, there's a flood in the basement from a sink dripping that overflowed. And now I'm just like knocking stuff over. The snot that comes out of your nose burns your face. You know the feeling. And now this ain't gonna work like that. That's ridiculous. So it's drill new holes, but it's also kind of thin. Brother, and it's also the controls, like fast is actually slow and slow is actually fast. So we know the cable's good. Maybe we'll just put this cable into the old bracket. Yeah, we swapped it over to the old one. Got the knob. It was kind of split. Filled with tight bond. Jesus. Finally got it. Funny, it was working really smoothly, and I decided to drill a hole through the firewall. The cable would be semi-protected, and now it's a little stiff. I promised I was going to take down the bowl, so I did, and look. It's starting to rain out, but there's a little water in the bowl. No debris. That gasket doesn't look that healthy. I better put it on before it rains. Found a mystery washer too that fell on the tarp. From where? the hell knows? You know, the housing's back on. One thing I hate to get into, but you can see how like this is the right bolt for this and this is the wrong one. Snow will actually get hung up on this pretty damn easy. So you should have another one of these. I'm going to take this out and see what I got. I could be wrong too, because there's no square hole here like I kind of expected. That might be a better option. I don't know, it's so weird. I mean, it will block the snow. I got stuff like this kicking around. You know, but still it needs that square hole. I'm thinking this is the one right now. That's got a nut, and you cannot when it's snowing. It's a little bit loose, but so these basically are supposed to just be kind of loose. I might just turn them around so that the big part isn't sticking out just the end. Like that. And I'll replace this one with something adjustable like these. Well, that's the same too. So, yeah, I'm gonna have some bolts sticking out. I'll probably catch my mitten on it in the middle of the winter and cut my hands where bloody murder, unless I cut these off. Might do that. I still don't have this one out yet. Okay, they're both like this. You got washers. They move pretty easy and there's enough friction. It's not gonna flap all over the place. I think that's better for the snow. I'm gonna try to get this down to a smooth surface and spray paint. That's a nice slick surface.